Hi, everybody. Welcome to English Digest. I'm Tom.
Hi, I'm Stephanie.
And today and over the next 3 days is our literature unit. We're going to be talking about a work of literature that you might consider reading yourself to improve your reading skills. The book we're talking about is entitled Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy. I've read one Thomas Hardy novel before, only one, Jude the Obscure, which I believe was his last novel, which was controversial, and supposedly he stopped writing novels after that and focused on his poetry instead.
Oh, I've never even heard of that. This is a particular book we read in high school when I was a kid, and it was later made into a movie with a very beautiful actress named Natasha Kinski. Yeah, that was controversial because she went on to have an affair when she was 15 with a 43-year-old director. Roman Polanski, who's been accused of worse things than that. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting because there was a lot of gossip surrounding the film when it came out. But we did read this book. It's considered to be a classic novel in English literature.
Yeah, I remember reading Jude the Obscure, and the style was pretty cool. It was fun to read.
Oh, really?
It was very enjoyable, so maybe this novel would be of interest to you. However, this novel and the one I read tend to be kind of tragic. Terrible things seem to happen to these characters. So if you're depressed or something and you need something to cheer you up, I would stay away from this stuff, absolutely. But it kind of reflects the times, what was going on back then in Victorian England. So let's get to it, everybody. Let's summarize our featured novel, Tess of the D'Urbervilles. Let's read today's lesson from top to bottom one time.
John Durbeyfield is a simple man who can barely make ends meet. But one day, his fortunes seem to change. He meets a clergyman who explains that John is a member of the D'Urbervilles, a prestigious family that owns a great deal of land nearby. A few days later, John sends his 16-year-old daughter Tess to contact the D'Urbervilles in hopes of claiming his fortune. He doesn't realize that old Mr. D'Urberville had changed his surname to D'Urberville, and the family isn't really connected to the D'Urbervilles. When Tess arrives at their residence, she meets young Alec D'Urberville. He gets Tess a job taking care of chickens on the farm because he finds her attractive. A few weeks later, Alec rapes Tess in the woods, and she gets pregnant. Tess names her son Sorrow and decides to return home to raise him alone. Sadly, Sorrow passes away in infancy, devastating Tess. In hopes of starting over, she leaves home again and takes a new job as a milkmaid. She falls in love with a young man named Angel, who was born into a parson's family. They get married, but their relationship is short-lived. Once Angel learns about her past, he decides he cannot be with her and sets off for Brazil alone. After their separation, Tess re-encounters Alec, who pursues her again. Although Tess is reluctant at first, she eventually gives in to his wishes, as she needs financial help. Shortly after, Angel returns, hoping to rekindle his relationship with Tess. This causes Tess to go mad and murder Alec. Afterward, Angel helps her escape, but Tess is soon captured by the police and executed.
Okay, this is our literature unit. Today we summarize our featured novel, Tess of the D'Urbervilles by the English author Thomas Hardy. So here's the title of our article, Love and Tragedy in the Victorian Era. That's what this novel is all about. There's romance in this book, and there's also tragedy, which means someone dies, someone gets hurt, someone's feelings are hurt, etc., etc. So if you're into those sorts of things, hey, this is the book for you. Now, let's start off and talk about the first character in the novel. His name is John Durbeyfield, is a simple man who can barely make ends meet. So here, of course, we've got John Derbyfield. He's simple. I guess he's probably a simple farmer or something like that. He's not very complicated, probably has not had a lot of education, and doesn't work a very prestigious job. And he can barely make ends meet. Now, first of all, we've got this phrase, to make ends meet. That means you make enough money to survive. It implies you're kind of struggling, okay? Gee, I can barely make ends meet. It's often used in that sense when we're having difficulty making enough money. Maybe we work 2 jobs and we're trying to raise 3 kids and we're living from paycheck to paycheck. So yes, you'll probably use that in this particular sense. Gee, I can't make ends meet. I can't seem to survive.
Yeah, we often use that barely. I can barely make ends meet. You don't have a lot of extra cash or extra dough after you've paid all your bills at the end of the month to go and have a good time or to buy something fun. So our goal is to always get a job where we can definitely not only make ends meet, we have lots of extra cash left over to go having a good time with. Now, one day, his fortunes seemed to change. His fortunes actually doesn't refer to money that he suddenly won or that he earned. That's not the same fortune. Fortune here is like his destiny, his life luck. Because he meets a clergyman, and clergyman is a word we used especially in the 1800s to talk about the ministers or the parson. You'll often hear that word used for minister in that time period. The clergyman actually tells John that he's related to a very wealthy family. So he was pretty excited. We're describing this family as being prestigious, very well known. They probably have done something cool in their lives. Maybe someone in their family has invented something, or they're known because they're royalty. In England, you know, they have dukes and barons and things like that. We don't have royalty in the States, but they inspire a lot of respect and admiration from other people because their status is quite high. So he's told by this clergyman, hey, you're related to these folks.
That's right. So I guess John here gets some ideas. Gee, why should I struggle to survive when I actually have some blue blood? So maybe I can get some money from the D'Urbervilles. I'm related to them.
What is blue blood? Better explain
that.
Blue
blood, yeah, basically you're royalty. You are high class, stuff like that. You're a member of a good family. So, of course, they own a lot of land. They're landowners, and it's not too far away. So a few days later, John Derbyfield, sends his 16-year-old daughter Tess to contact the D'Urbervilles in hopes of claiming his fortune. So, yes, he sends his daughter over there to do this. He doesn't go over there himself, I guess, because he's kind of a laborer. Maybe he's dirty or something.
He sends his daughter, Tom, because she's beautiful.
Right.
Yeah, and he knows that beautiful women often get their way in life. So instead of going over there himself, he sends his pretty daughter.
That's right. And they want to claim the fortune here. And he doesn't realize that old Mr. D'Urberville had changed his surname to D'Urberville. And the family isn't really connected to the D'Urbervilles. So somebody changed their name here. The old guy living nearby actually changed his name from something else. Maybe he used to be Mr. Johnson or Mr. Wilson or something.
Mr. Jones, yeah.
There you go. And he thought, well, you know, if I change it to D'Urberville, people might respect me or something like that. Of course, your surname is your family name. Most people here in Taiwan have a one-syllable surname, Li, Zhang, Lin, etc. Sometimes you hear 2 syllables, like Fanjiang or something like that, or Ouyang or whatever. Those are all surnames. My surname, well, I'm not going to say it on air here, but examples of Western surnames would be like Johnson, Wilson, Parker, etc., etc. Those are surnames.
Right. So he goes over there, and well, she does. A few days later, he sends his 16-year-old daughter, Tess, to contact these D'Urbervilles in hopes of claiming his fortune. And this time, fortune actually does refer to money. He's hoping that, you know, they'll give him some land or maybe share some of their wealth. Ha, ha, ha. He doesn't realize, of course, that this family, change their name. Maybe they had a boring name or an ugly name, but they wanted to be respected, so they changed it to a pretty cool name here. If you're connected to somebody or related to them, you can also have two things that are connected. They have some sort of relationship together. So the family, unfortunately, isn't connected to the wealthy D'Urbervilles. So John's fortune does not change. So the direction of his life does not get any better. Well, what happens when Tess arrives at the residence? This is where this family that has changed their name to D'Urberville lives. She meets a young guy named Alec D'Urberville. And he gets Tess a job taking care of chickens on the farm because why? Because she's really pretty and he wants her around on the farm so he can check her out and hopefully someday become girlfriend, boyfriend. That's what he's thinking. But Tess isn't interested, to be honest, at first. And he doesn't let that stop him, does he?
Of course not. Most boys aren't inhibited by something like that, at least boys at this time. Maybe they are nowadays. But in any case here, yes, she goes over to their house there, the residence. Sorry, we're not really D'Urbervilles, so you can't have it. You can't have the money. But still, what we can do for you, since your father's kind of poor, he's kind of a simple man, I can offer you a job. You can work here, make some money, send it back to your father, stuff like that. All you got to do is take care of chickens on the farm. Chickens are kind of interesting animals.
Have you taken care of chickens on a farm before?
Never. I know they smell really bad.
Yeah.
I used to ride my bicycle in a place in the mountains here in Taiwan, and I always go past this place where someone was raising chickens, and I never looked forward to it because it always smelled really badly there. All these chickens, they're all gone now. They cleaned it up, but my goodness, chickens can smell something terrible.
They're very noisy, too.
Noisy little devils, indeed. And, of course, we like chickens because the hens lay eggs, and the roosters, well, what do they do? I'm not quite sure what they do.
They wake you up in the morning, which is really irritating.
Cock-a-doodle-doo.
Cock-a-doodle-doo!
Yeah, so in any case here, maybe she's got some experience doing that sort of thing. We don't know, but she goes over there to take care of those chickens. But again, the main reason is that he finds her attractive. So as you said, maybe it will give him an opportunity to express his feelings to her, or maybe to entertain her somehow, take her to a movie. They probably didn't have movies back then.
They didn't have movies
Maybe
then.
To a play or something like that, to treat her to dinner. He will try to charm her. He will court her. He will chase her. Eventually, she will give in and fall in love with him too, and they will live happily ever after. At least, that's probably what he's hoping.
No, but he's wrong. She keeps rejecting him. We're going to find out what happens next, guys. But first, we're going to take a quick break and listen to our Chinese teacher.
大家好，欢迎收听 English Digest， 我是哈利。今天我们要阅读的文章是 Unit 14文学单元的第一天课程。Tess of the D'Urbervilles， 黛丝姑娘是一部世界知名的小说，也曾在1979年由英法两国拍成电影，获得奥斯卡金像奖的多项提名。首先我们看到课文标题 Love and Tragedy in the Victorian Era， 名词 tragedy 是悲剧的意思。例如 Many people think Hamlet is Shakespeare's best tragedy， 许多人认为哈姆雷特是莎士比亚最好的悲剧作品，而 tragedy 也可以用来表示悲惨的事，不幸的事。例如 It was a tragedy that Jack's parents died in a car accident， 杰克的父母死于一场车祸，真是一件不幸的事。文章的第一段提到 John D'Urberville 某一天遇到了一位牧师，得知他和的 D'Urbervilles 是亲戚，于是他叫女儿去联系的 D'Urbervilles， 希望能借此得到一些财富。我们看到这一段的第一句 John D'Urberville is a simple man who can barely make ends meet, but one day his fortune seems to change. 约翰·杜伯菲尔是一个平凡的男人，仅能勉强维持家中生计，但是有一天他的命运似乎要改变了。片语 make ends meet 是勉强维持收支平衡的意思。 end 在此做名词用，有末端结束的意思。其他和 end 相关的常见片语有 come to an end 或者是 draw to an end， 结束停止。例如 I'm sad that the summer vacation is coming to an end， 我很难过暑假要结束了。 Put an end to something 或者是 put a stop to something， 使什么结束，使什么停止。例如 After 2 hours of discussion, we decided to put an end to the meeting. 在经过2小时的讨论后，我们决定结束这场会议。In the end, 最后，最终。例如 Though we'll have to overcome many difficulties, we believe everything will turn out all right in the end. 尽管我们必须克服许多困难，我们相信最后一切都会好起来。文章的第2段提到 Tess 到了 The D'Urbervilles 的家后，遇见了 Alec。Alec 给了 Tess 一份工作，但后来侵犯了
Tess。We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Welcome back, guys. We're talking about the classic novel Tess of the D'Urbervilles. And we find out she comes from a very poor family. Her dad's name is John Durbeyfield, which is a very British name. It's not really an American name. And he's simple. They don't have a lot of money. He probably hasn't had a lot of education, and they can barely make ends meet. But one day, a clergyman falsely, I think the clergyman wasn't trying to lie to him. I think he really thought that John was related to the D'Urbervilles who lived nearby. And those D'Urbervilles, the ones he wanted to be related to, were a very prestigious family. They owned a ton of land, and back then, if you owned land, you were a somebody, because poor people didn't own their own land back then. Well, John's excited. He sends out his beautiful 16-year-old daughter, Tess, to talk to them, see what she can find out. He's hoping that their fortune will change and that they will be able to claim some of that land or money from the D'Urberville family. He finds out, though, that the D'Urbervilles that he's supposedly related to, they're not the rich D'Urbervilles. It's just a family that changed their surname or last name to D'Urberville. So when Tess arrives at their residence, she meets young Alec D'Urberville, the son, and he thinks, wow, she's hot. Let's be honest, she's really a pretty girl. He gets Tess a job taking care of chickens on the farm because he wants her around so he can check her out.
Okay, so unfortunately here, though, a few weeks later, Alec rapes Tess in the woods and she gets pregnant. I think I read somewhere that in the novel it implies that he raped her. It didn't come out and say that he actually did, but some people think that he was, the author was forced to change it because rape was too strong for Victorian times.
Yeah.
Remember, Victorian England in the 1800s was pretty conservative, pretty prudish, you could say, but in any case, yes, indeed. She gets raped by Alec, and she's pregnant. That means you're expecting a baby.
Which is horrible. Yeah, you know, if you read some of those older books, you kind of have to guess at the meaning sometimes of what's going on because they don't come out right out and say, oh, he raped her. But he's a bad guy, we know that. Tess has the baby and names her son Sorrow, which means sadness, which is kind of sad. It's not really a common name, is it, at all?
No.
And then decides to take her little boy back home to her dad and raise him alone there without a husband. Now, back then, if you had a baby and you weren't married, it was a bad, bad, bad thing.
Indeed. So that's probably something that caused controversy during Victorian times there. So again, she wants to raise the kid on her own as a single mother. Sadly, Sorrow passes away in infancy, devastating Tess.
So
infancy, of course, is when babies are very, very small, when they're infants, which means what? They're only about maybe 1 or 2 years old before they become a toddler?
No, infancy is probably up to, I would say, 6-7 months.
Oh, that's small. Okay.
Yeah, there really are infants. And when this happens, of course, being a mom, it devastates her. It really destroys her. She's so depressed and sad about this. You can imagine how sad it would be to lose your baby. So in hopes of starting over, starting over in a new life, perhaps. She leaves home again, and this time she takes a new job as a milkmaid. Sounds like Tess doesn't really have any education. Back then, she wouldn't have been educated. She'd be lucky if she even knew how to read. She falls in love with a young man while she's a milkmaid, and his name is Angel, and he was born into a parson's family. Remember, earlier on I mentioned that a minister and a parson, kind of the same idea. It's a religious leader, and they have a group of followers, and they meet and, have church on Sunday. Well, so it sounds like he's from a good family. She does not tell Angel about her past, which probably most girls would keep quiet about, because back then, if something like that had happened to her, even though it wasn't her fault, Alec raped her, the whole society would look down upon her.
Right, so remember, she was raped, she had a child out of wedlock, and then the child actually died. So that would probably affect your current husband's emotional state. Wow, am I really married to someone like that? First of all, she had these things happen to her, and second, she didn't tell me about those things. So they got married, but their relationship is short-lived. It doesn't last long. Once Angel learns about her past, he decides he cannot be with her and sets off for Brazil alone. So he realizes that, wow, because of your past, I don't think I can be with you. We've got to split up. We've got to get divorced here. And he's so freaked out by this that he decides to go off to Brazil. I guess he heard that Brazilian women are kind of hot, I guess, or Brazil's got some great food.
Who knows?
The Portuguese language they speak down there is really wonderful. So he decides to go down to Brazil, and he leaves jolly old England.
What a jerk. So after their separation is a noun. It just means the action of being moved apart or moving away from someone, no longer being together. So after their separation, separate is the verb form. Separation is the noun. She actually re-encounters Alec, the jerk who raped her long ago. So he pursues her again. Like I said, if you read the book or you get a chance to see the film that was made, I think it was 1979. It's a pretty good film, too. It was nominated for Best Picture. You can see she's really beautiful. So, of course, this guy tries to, chase her again. That's what pursue means, to chase. So although Tess is reluctant at first, she really isn't interested. She eventually gives in to his wishes. He wears her down is another way we would say this. Eventually means after some time has passed. So it's not right away. It's after some time has passed. So eventually it just means in the end. You could actually write that. She's reluctant at first, but in the end, she gives in to his wishes. If you give in, it means you say yes to someone who wants you to do something, but it takes a lot of convincing. At first, you don't want to, right? You give in, you kind of fangqi, you give up, you give in and do what somebody else wants you to do. Because why? She needs financial help. She has no money.
Yeah, she still really doesn't want to say yes in her heart, but she gives in. Alec doesn't take no for an answer. He keeps pushing after her. So eventually, in the end, finally, after a long period of time, she gives in. She lets him have his way with her, and she needs the financial help. Of course, financial means having to do with money. And shortly after, Angel returns, hoping to rekindle his relationship with Tess. So I guess things didn't work out in Brazil, and maybe he thought, well, maybe she had that kind of past. She couldn't help it. I guess I can live with it now. After all, she is a pretty attractive woman there. I guess it's worth forgetting about those things. So he comes back from Brazil and tries to rekindle it. Rekindle means to start the fire again, basically get things going again. I don't imagine Tess is interested, though.
Yeah, this causes Tess to go mad. Mad here doesn't mean angry. It means crazy. She's so upset. And she loses her mind for a minute and murders Alex. So, he deserves it after all this time. She should have killed him after he raped her. But if you murder someone, guys, it means you kill someone intentionally. You do it on purpose. Afterward, Angel tries to help her escape, but she's soon captured by the police and executed. She is killed herself because she committed murder, and that's a capital crime, which if it's a capital crime, it means the punishment is usually your own death.
Right, you can be executed by hanging, by guillotine, by firing squad.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's usually lethal injection, at least in the United States.
A shot that has poison inside it that makes your heart stop.
Indeed. Okay, that brings us to the end of our tragic story here. But let's cheer up now and listen to our Chinese teacher.
我们看到第二段的第三句 A few weeks later, Alec rapes Tess in the woods, and she gets pregnant. 数周后，亚历克在树林里强暴黛丝，她因而怀孕。形容词 pregnant 意指怀孕的。如果我们说 The woman is 3 months pregnant， 就是指这位妇女已怀孕3个月。如果我们说 The woman is heavily pregnant， 就是指这位妇女即将临盆了。如果是 The woman is pregnant with a girl， 就是指这位妇女怀有女孩。另外 pregnant 也可以指含有的、意味深长的。例如 This presidential election is pregnant with possibilities. 这场总统选举含有许多可能性。Tess 后来生下一名男孩叫做 Sorrow， 忧愁。我们看到第二段的第5句 Sadly, sorrow passes away in infancy, devastating Tess. 让人遗憾的是，忧愁幼年夭折，这使黛丝一蹶不振。动词 devastate 是使非常难过、彻底摧毁的意思。例如 A massive earthquake devastated the village. 一场大地震摧毁了这个村庄。Devastate 的形容词为 devastating. D-E-V-A-S-T-A-T-I-N-G. 意思是造成严重破坏的、毁灭性的。例如Taking drugs can have a devastating influence on a person's life. 使用毒品会对一个人的生活造成毁灭性的影响。Devastating 也可以用来表示 very impressive 或 very attractive， 令人印象深刻的或吸引人的。例如 Mary has a devastating smile that few people can resist. 玛丽有令人难以抗拒的迷人微笑。我们接着看到全文的最后一句Afterward, Angel helps her escape, but Tess is soon captured by the police and executed. 后来，安杰帮助黛丝逃亡，但黛丝很快就被警察逮捕，而后被处以死刑。动词 execute 在本句是处刑、处决的意思。Execute somebody for something 就是指因什么而处死某人。例如 The prisoner was executed for murdering his wife. 这位囚犯因谋杀妻子而被处死。另外 execute 也有执行、实施的意思，相当于 carry out 或 implement。 I-M-P-L-E-M-E-N-T。 例如 These soldiers have to execute their general's orders. 这些士兵必须执行将军的命令。以上就是今天的课程，谢谢大家收听。
Well, folks, that's day 1 of our literature unit. As we always do in our next program, we're going to be talking about the author Thomas Hardy, who was a nice British man. We'll talk about his background and some of the things he's written besides Tess of the D'Urbervilles. If you get a chance, check out the movie, which was, again, made by director Roman Polanski. He's kind of a creep. Nowadays, he's looked down upon, but he was considered to be an amazing filmmaker back then. So we're really glad you joined us, and we hope you'll come back next time to learn more about Thomas Hardy. For English Digest, I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Tom. Goodbye.
Bye.